So hello, my name's Gareth Harts. I'm the Director of Iridescent Ideas CIC.
My name's Paul Reed. I'm also Director of Iridescent Ideas. And in our last film, we talked a lot about what a social enterprise is and how they work. But today, we're going to talk about why they're important. So why is social enterprise so important?
Well look, businesses are a really profound force in the world. Businesses create jobs, they create wealth, they create profit, and then that tax on profit and salaries goes to fund our hospitals and our schools. But the challenge is that pursuit of profit alone can be really damaging. So we've seen lots of financial mis-selling, we see businesses damaging the environment and people. So what we need to change that model and think about how we can do business in a better way. And social enterprise is about that.
So is this caring capitalism or something more radical?
I think it's a real interesting challenge to business as usual. And if capitalism is about private ownership and making profit for shareholders, this is quite different. So social enterprises are often owned collectively, not always, but sometimes. They do make a profit, but that goes back to achieving a social mission. So I think it's really rethinking the concept of business for the 21st century.
So social enterprises seem to do things differently. So how do they treat their employees? Do they pay differently?
I think there's a lot of evidence that social enterprises are much more inclusive. About 75% of social enterprises pay the real living wage compared to about 15–10% of standard businesses. A lot of social enterprises are owned and set up and run by women, which is again very different to the mainstream business sector. And also social enterprises operate where we most need them to work to create jobs and wealth in the most deprived communities.
The world seems to be talking more about climate change and taking these things more seriously. What can social enterprise do to improve the world that we live in?
So there are loads of social enterprises doing great work in the environmental space. There are loads of community energy projects, putting solar panels on sports centres and schools. There are beach cleaning social enterprises selling eco products. And it's really important, we've got to think about that environmental impact. But actually, what social enterprises are doing isn't putting profit ahead of damaging the environment, and that marks them out as quite different to standard business.
What's stopping social enterprises from being a real economic force in the world?
So I think public awareness needs to massively increase. There's a lot of evidence that consumers want to buy more ethical alternatives, but they just don't know enough about social enterprise. I think the government could do more, so there could be tax incentives to encourage startups in social entrepreneurship. And also, imagine at school, if every young person had an experience of social enterprise at school, I think that would make the world a better place and we'd see more social enterprises thriving and making a difference.
So I think we can all agree that social enterprise has a significant chance to make a big difference to the world that we live in. But what we need to understand is how we raise its profile, how we raise its exposure to people. So people at home, I would recommend and encourage you to find out where your social enterprises are in your city, in your towns, and support them as best as you possibly can and tell other people about it.